Retail Revolution is a special, limited podcast created specifically for retailing and service design, a unique course that is part of the Fashion Management Graduate Program at Parsons School of Design in New York City. Each episode features in-depth conversations with guest experts in omni-channel retailing with myriad perspectives: technology, consumer engagement, data analytics, merchandising, and more. We pay special attention to the short and long-term challenges and implications of COVID-19 and potential opportunities to rethink retail's future. Retail Revolution is produced by Joshua Williams and hosted by Christopher LACY. Both are assistant professors in the School of Fashion at Parsons.
Welcome to a very special episode of Retail Revolution podcast in partnership with Parsons Festival Here and Now. Parsons Festival is a celebration of our 2020 graduates. And today, in this very special episode, which is video and live, I have with me, coming from the background, Joshua Williams, fellow assistant professor in the MPS Fashion Management Program, as well as co-creator and co-producer of Retail Revolution podcast, and two ladies that I have come to know and value and respect, Maloney Kathari and Caitlin Forbes. Both are MPS Fashion Management students, as well as Retail Revolution interns. Thank you for joining me today, everyone.
Thank you for having us.
So I'm going to jump right in here. When we said we were going to do this, the first thing that came to my mind is I wanted to ask you, and I'm going to start with Caitlin on this one. Caitlin, how do you think or view the fashion industry differently now than you did, coming into this program?
I think the biggest difference is that I think about the big picture now. It's not just about the final product, but the way in which the final product came to be. So 3 things that come to mind that I think of differently are consumers, retail, and products. For consumers, I now see them as smart, curious, inquisitive, and today they have so many resources to know so much more than consumers have in the past, which means that brands need to be transparent about where their money goes, the production, supply chain, materials used, their margins, all of that. And because today the young consumer wants to know and cares about the systems and practices about brands. And then for retail, I had doubts coming into this program that brick and mortar would last forever. And now I fully understand how deeply rooted fashion is in brick and mortar, and e-commerce won't be able to break that connection. So I think that nothing can replace it. And then lastly, products. I no longer see products at face value. There's so many products that look good from the outside, but after this program, I really learned that diving in deep to the history of products and how they're made, there's so much that goes on behind closed doors of a company, and some of these glorified products aren't necessarily as good as they seem to be. So to look at everything with a very critical eye.
And I remember when we started with the orientation week, there were these 4 buzzwords, which are authenticity, transparency, sustainability, and omni-channel. So during the entire program, we kind of deep dived into each of those, and we exactly understood what it means for the brands and the companies, and understanding it in a deeper level, especially what it means to the consumers as well, was very interesting to learn.
Because Maloney, you brought up authenticity and transparency, and because you work in production, that's your background. Your background is also design. But along with that is something we talk about often, which is sustainability. And we often just think of that in terms of the environment. I want to know for you, how else do you think of sustainability, and how do you think we all should start thinking of sustainability?
I think all of us should start thinking. Firstly, it starts with the tag. For me, personally, it is extremely important where it is made. So when I read made in Bangladesh or made in India, the most important thing is whether they are paying their workers minimum wage. So there are women and men working in these factories, and what are the conditions they are working in. So you are not really paying for the product, you are actually paying for the livelihood of these people. So it is important to choose a brand wisely when it comes to shopping, even as a consumer, to think about these people as well.
So, Caitlin, I want to ask you because you worked in the field of, you have a background in PR and dealing with brands. And when we talk about sustainability and ethically, sourcing materials, Caitlin, for you, if you were to engage with a brand right now, what would you tell them they should be doing during this time?
I think that during a time of transition, I would tell a brand to be authentic to your brand and your foundation. Brands are built off of people, and we like to think that those people are good. So Maloney and I have had conversations about this, but being a good person during a time of transition and those values will shine through. And I would say just make sure you stay true to who you are and not who you think consumers want you to be. It just never feels as authentic. And I think it's so important to be transparent and honest because people have empathy and will want to help you if they believe you. So stay true to your core values and to your mission statement.
Yay, mission statements, values. That's what I'm talking about. So I feel like Josh and I have probably talked about mission statements and values, or at least I know I did to no end. And I actually thinking about mission statements and values, Maloney, you had a very clear thought about this relative to luxury and how their values or how their stance is portrayed on social media. And I'd love for you to talk about that right now.
So when I look at luxury brand social media, even though it is throwing luxury products at us, it is extremely important for the brand to be empathetic that we are going through a pandemic. But that is not evident when I look at Chanel's Instagram. I think it's not required in this time to have a cruise collection launching in, right? We are going through something really serious. And it is important for the brand to always keep in mind the consumers who admire them, even though they cannot really afford them, who kind of save every dollar a month to afford that Chanel bag or that Louis Vuitton bag. So to be really empathetic in terms of what they put out there on Instagram, compared to that, when I see Nike's Instagram, which is "You Can't Stop Us," the recent ad which they launched, it was crazy, and it kind of motivates you that, oh my god, we are all in this together. And it actually showed the matches and the sports teams who have lost and who have like later conquered and being number one. So yeah.
It's interesting that you're talking about awareness because it's not that we necessarily think that Chanel has to be doing, pandemic type things, but it's just the acknowledgement, right? That we're all part of this thing that's happening in the world.
Caitlin, I want to ask you because what part of being in fashion management, the whole idea is you could go into a company and really manage what's going on in it. And with all of you who are, this is your first year to graduate, we're graduating our first management program, but with all of you are also those who are in design and in textiles. If they were starting a brand right now, what advice would you give them from what you've learned in the management program?
I would tell a brand to create a strong foundation, and I would tell them to pay attention from every single aspect from A to Z. So it's not just about the end product, but about every single thing that you put forth through that middle phase. That's so crucial. So the production, where you choose what country you source your materials from, to transportation and the supply chain, to getting that product and marketing it, advertising it, social media, e-commerce. So you have to pay attention to all of these letters, and it can't just be the first one or the last one. And spend time and really think through who your brand is and how you want it to come across to the consumer. And I would tell new designers to have a strong mission statement and then work through that alphabet to get to where you want to be, which is the product, and be unique with that product. Don't just put out what's already on the market, because there's so many different products.
I would tell a brand to really take it slow and not just come out with the product for the heck of coming out with the product. And it is extremely important for them to create an experience and a service, be it online and offline, because we post pandemic, it would be really hard earned money that people are spending on you, right? Like you got to be really special. You got to create an experience for the consumer that he or she wants to come back to you, not just because you had an amazing product, but you also had a really, really great service.
We spend so much time talking in this program about all of the many complex things that go behind a brand, because I think it's, as consumers, we look at fashion and we think, oh, it's so beautiful, it's so sexy, everything seems perfect. But behind the scenes, it's a lot more complex. And you've already mentioned sustainability. Caitlin, you mentioned sort of all of the different layers, the A to Z layers of running a business. And I'm curious if there's one thing that stood out in the program in terms of what you've learned that you think could be brought to the industry, or that you would bring into your own careers if once you start a new job or start your own company. What would be one thing that you would do?
I think one kind of important kind of detour that I've taken since been in this program is, as Chris said, I've worked in PR, I've worked in a lot of different fields, and some fields I felt more fulfilled in, and in those fields were the fields that I could really help people. So I think that making the world a better place is really important to me, and making everybody around me happier. So I think that I would, I don't know where my career is going to take me, but for instance, if I wanted to become a stylist, I would want to help people and make them feel better about themselves. And I think through this program, it was so amazing because we had a wide variety of guest speakers in technology, the CFDA, design, any guest speaker you could think of. We had representation from that field, seriously. So it was so amazing because every single one of those speakers brought something good to the table, something positive. And they were all giving back by educating us, which was so powerful because as the next generation, we want to take all of that and then take it to the next level. So I think that for me, I really want to focus on finding my niche in fashion that I can make the world a better place.
So very human centric. I like that. Maloney, what about you?
Taking in all that we have learned over the year, I think it would be really important for me as a person to be honest and at the same time be rooted and authentic. Coming from India, I would like to actually take it a step ahead and be diverse in the decisions I make, even as a brand or even as a person, and kind of take it for the long run. So it should not just be like temporary. I would like that to go on forever and forever. So yeah, be authentic in my approach towards everything. Design is something I would love to learn from, and always keep learning as a brand. Like I kind of don't like it that some brands have stopped learning and stopped innovating. They're like kind of they are selling the same monogram. So I don't think that is going to work even 5 years down the line, to constantly keep innovating even though it is a heritage brand. So yeah, I would love to keep innovating and keep learning. That's important for me.
Thank you so much. I think, for Josh and I, this has been just an amazing ride to have with all of you as students, but really with the two of you. We let you take the reins for Retail Revolution podcast. And I want to ask you, did you learn something from that when you did that Retail Revolution takeover? It's number 1 and number 2 episodes out there right now. So Maloney, what was something you learned from that you weren't expecting?
The one thing I wasn't expecting post pandemic was that this Generation Z is ready to reuse and go ahead with the subscription model and go ahead with rentals and kind of like wear sustainable clothing or even wear the clothes that are worn by somebody else, and kind of just slow down on the entire process, because this is the kind of generation that is being marketed fast fashion, but still they choose to rewear something. That was a very, very big learning for me, and how social media plays such an important role in their life. And since they are on it, and they kind of associate themselves with the social media of the brand, and they actually are so emotional with it. Like for some of them in the class, if the brand does not stand on something on social media, it is like a big thing. We would never expect that 5 years back that this would be so emotional, but it is that is driving the business and also the world.
Yeah, so I think for me, the two biggest things that stood out were one, all three of the Gen Zers that I spoke to all ensured me that they would prefer shopping in person in a brick and mortar store than online. And they all said it right off the bat. And the reason for it being, which I found interesting, was one of the people that I interviewed said, my body's so unique. So it's really hard for me to order online unless I know that exact brand that I order from, because everything fits me differently. So I go into a store, I need to see how long the shirt is. I need to see what it's made out of to see if it's going to shrink. And especially for shoes as well, there's no universal shoe sizing. So when I go to order shoes online, they never fit. So for me, I have to go into stores, and the other ones also expressed them wanting to go in stores for the experience. And they liked finding cool, unique clothes, thrift shopping, whatever it is, that it's just not highlighted the same online. One, and two, they don't get that experience shopping online and being a part of the store. And the second thing was, one of the people that I interviewed said that her Instagram knows her better than her mom, and she really likes shopping these unique brands that we wouldn't see in a brick and mortar store. So she actually visited Schofeld's in Soho, and some of the brands that she liked were in the store. And I think it was just, she said that that's where the future of retail was. And I think that that's so interesting because I see a lot of people wanting to buy different clothing, but also wanting to shop in person. And I think Schofeld's does a great job of introducing people to new brands or bringing people in that want to experience those new brands, young brands that are native to online in stores.
So, lightning round here, question and answer. One of the key things about this program is we wanted to give you an intense year where you got to sort of luxuriate in rethinking what fashion could be and rethinking how you can be part of fashion. So, in just a couple of words, sentences, what do you know about yourself now, 1 year later, as you complete this program that you didn't know before? Caitlin.
That I'm capable.
Maloney.
So surprised that I can really push myself to know a lot about fashion every day, every morning, that it's going to throw surprises at us, but we have to be out there challenging it, making it change little bit in our own way. Yeah.
That's so great to hear. I think it's so easy to get cynical about fashion, especially when you see the big picture and you understand how problematic so many parts of it can be, whether it's around sustainability, diversity, inclusivity, even authenticity. And I know as professors, sometimes we do get a little cynical, but our goal in this program is to help you be critical thinkers and to really think differently and be innovative. I can't even say that word. Wow.
It's okay.
To be
You
innovative.
could be saying Yosemite.
I could. There is that. To be innovative. There we go. And it is really inspiring to see the change that you've gone through and frankly all that we've learned from you.
Do you guys see a change in all of us?
I wanted to ask that. Yeah.
I definitely do. I think, the biggest thing I think for all of you is, and what I think we got to see is your critical thinking skills grow so much, and really understanding how to connect the dots, and not taking things at face value and going, okay, the data shows me this. This also shows me this. What story is it telling? And I think that's a sign of great managerial or leadership thinking and strategic thinking.
I would absolutely agree. So many of you, you're right, Caitlin, came in and said, well, brick and mortar's dead. And the funny thing is that Chris and I look at this and go, but you're shopping in the store. So how do you walk into a program saying that when you're actually doing the opposite? But really connecting those dots and then understanding sort of the bigger picture and really being able to see all the different layers that go on in fashion. It's a very complex business. I can definitely see a difference from last August to this August. And like I said, it's inspiring to see because it is a very quick and intensive program.
Thank you guys so much. I think speaking on behalf of Maloney and I, we've learned so much from the two of you, and you guys have been amazing teachers and mentors to us through this entire year. And we are lucky enough to continue learning from you guys by interning at Retail Revolution. So thank you so much for being those people.
Thank you both so much. This is great. Caitlin, Maloney, we're sending you a Venmo check in the mail for that. Thank you so much. Or wait, what is it? It would be a Venmo wire. This has been a fantastic episode of Retail Revolution. Good luck out there. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who's listening on the Here and Now Parsons Festival platform. Please feel free to check out all of the other programming that's coming your way.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Retail Revolution. A very special thank you to everyone who has helped make this podcast possible. Our guests, our students, and fellow faculty at Parsons School of Design, especially in such an extraordinary and unprecedented time. Our theme music was composed by Spencer Powell. Be well and stay tuned for our next episode.